So for a couple of weeks now, I've been doing research on different diets and seeing how they can affect your body physically, and mentally. And while I was doing that, I came across two diets that I found were pretty similar, those being the vegetarian and vegan diets. So for starters, these two diets have pretty similar goals in mind, which is to decrease the amount of animal consumption every year, whether that be through no longer eating meat or just not eating any animal product whatsoever. And after doing that, I would figure these two diets would have a pretty, like, they would get along pretty well, but surprisingly, that's not the case because it seems like vegans are a bit more hostile towards vegetarians because they just don't, they think they don't really care about animals as much. It's kind of hard to explain, honestly, which it's pretty bizarre because it seems like these two diets have a lot in common, yet they have a bit of a feud going on right now. So I want to take the time to like try and explain how these two diets are a lot more similar than people think and they have a lot more common ground. But I think before we talk about that, we should take time to like discuss the two diets individually so we can get time to know each diet's more. So I think we should start off with the more simpler diet of two, which in my opinion is the vegetarian based diet. The main rule of it is pretty simple. You just don't eat meat. You can eat things like fruits, vegetables, dairy products. You just don't eat meat and you're pretty much set. As far as I'm aware, there's two main reasons people choose the vegetarian diet. Main reason is they don't like seeing animals get killed or harmed, because if you think about it, it is pretty sad to know that the meat on your plate used to be an animal that was alive, basically. It's a little sad to think about if you ask me. Another reason I see people choosing a vegetarian diet is because it does have a lot of great health benefits. Like you have a decreased chance in heart disease, cancer, obesity. All those are decreased pretty efficiently. But that doesn't mean it also has its downsides. Like really there's really only one problem with the vegetarian based diet, and that's that you have a decreased amount of protein, since meat is usually the main consumption of protein. But other than that, the vegetarian diet is a pretty good option if you're looking to get in shape. So next up on our list, we have the vegan-based diet. The way I like to see this diet is just pretty much think of the vegetarian diet, but instead of no longer being able to eat meat, you're no longer able to eat any kind of animal product whatsoever, which can include things like milk, eggs, cheese, any kind of dairy product, really. There's four main reasons I see people choosing the vegan diet nowadays, which usually goes down to animals, health, society, and the environment. All of which have good reasoning for. Another thing I really like about the vegan diet is that if you don't like the normal vegan diets, then there's a bunch of different subcategories. One good example of this is the whole food vegan diet, which, as the name implies, usually focuses on whole foods. It also has great benefits similar to the vegetarian-based diet. It has a decreased chance of lowering obesity, heart disease, and cancer. But it also has the same problem as the vegetarian diet. It just doesn't give you good protein. But mainly, that's really the only issue I see when it comes to the vegan-based diet. That's pretty much it. So now that we've taken the time to talk about the two individually, we can finally start to take the time to talk about the two together and see what they both have in common. Right off the bat, we both know that they have the same goal. As we stated at the beginning of this, their main goal is to decrease the amount of animal consumption, whether that be through no longer eating meat if you're a vegetarian, or just not eat any animal product whatsoever if you're a vegan. They have the same goal no matter what. And not to mention, I know we've already stated this, but they have so many health benefits that are very well in common. Like I said, reduced chances of obesity, diabetes even, cancer, heart disease. All of those are decreased, and they even have the same problem of not getting enough protein. There's just so much in common that these two have. I don't see why people don't talk about this. It's insane. So it should be obvious now that I am definitely not a vegan or vegetarian in any way possible. But after doing my research, I have definitely concluded that these two have a lot more in common than people usually think they do. Both diets are meant to show that they obviously care for animals and your overall health as a whole. Which it also goes back to the question I answered recently. Are vegetarians and vegans are similar or different? In my opinion, I'd definitely say they're similar in a lot of ways. I do think vegans give vegetarians a little too much hate. Like I said, I don't really understand why, since they both have the same goal in mind. Sure, vegans might have a bit more guidelines compared to vegetarians, but I'm pretty sure not eating meat is good enough to show that you still care about animals. Another question that you may still have in your mind is, if you're wanting to choose a plant-based diet, you may wonder which would be best for you in this case. If you want to start off simple, you can go with a vegetarian-based diet, and if you want to give a bit more effort in it, go for a vegan diet. Like I said, they're both pretty good options to starting a new diet.